Me too, but I have a vested interest.
Conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Okay, can we, do we have any, before we do roll call, I'll even ask if we have public comment. Do we have any members of the public here? Emily, you're on mute.
Thank you. There are no members of the public in attendance, and I have not received any public comments.
Awesome. Will you just let me know if that changes? If not, I think I'm allowed to skip, Matt, some of that text that I always have to read. Okay, can we do roll?
Yes. Member Bristow?
Present.
Member Esquivel?
Present.
Member Linder?
Here.
Member Moriarty?
I'm here.
Member Wayne?
Here.
Vice Chair Carr?
Here.
And Chair Ash.
Here.
We do not currently have a quorum.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, I appreciate the folks from San Ramon and Oakley being here on time and efficient. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to you guys, and hopefully Emily will phone a friend and be successful in our game show question here. But let's go ahead with item number C on our agenda today, the San Pablo Avenue Multimodal Corridor Study. And that way, hopefully we'll have quorum and you can vote on and take action on your items. Matt, do you want to introduce this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Ash. So today I'm here to present to you the findings from kind of overall a 5-year study, over a 5-year study actually, of San Pablo Avenue, kind of the main street of West County. Travels through 5 cities and the unincorporated Contra Costa areas, as well as through 4 cities in Alameda County. So back in 2017, well, I'll introduce Leah Greenblatt. She's here tonight from WCTAC, which is the West Contra Costa Transportation Advisory Committee, the Regional Transportation Planning Committee from West County, and they were the project manager of this study, and Leah was the day-to-day project manager, and CCTA participated in the study on the study TAC, as well as contributing funding for the project. So, and I'll let Leah weigh in whenever she feels she needs to, and correct me on anything if I run astray. But I want to give her credit for all the work she did on this study. Now, I'm going to start sharing now. Like I said, I'm reporting out on the findings from phase 2 of the study, but I'll talk about the overall study. Here's just what I'm going to go through today. There's a shot of the Cerrito Theater right at the beginning of the Contra Costa side of San Pablo Avenue. So basically back in 2017, CCTA, WCTAC, and Alameda County Transportation Commission, our sister agency in Alameda County, started talking about, looking at San Pablo Avenue really in a holistic fashion, focusing on safety and multimodal mobility, increasing options for all modes and mobility for all modes, not just the car, and support economic growth, and as well as promoting, equitable transportation, since this is an area that's in both counties that's part of communities of concern, as they were called at the time, deemed by MTC. So we decided to get together. ACTC had contracted with a consultant, so we kind of jumped on their consultant contract. And during phase 1, we were working together as an entire corridor, looking at the conditions on San Pablo Avenue. So here's that background here. Phase 1 went on through 2020. We were able to do most of the work before the pandemic and do a lot of outreach. I'll get into that in a second. Like I said, it was led by ACTC along with WCTAC and CCTA. The study corridor went from downtown Oakland. As you know, San Pablo Avenue starts right there by City Hall. And we chose the northern part of the corridor to be through Hilltop Mall. And we chose that endpoint because that is the extent of AC Transit service area. And we were part of the study focused on bus operations in the corridor. So we wanted to make sure we were encompassing AC Transit. And then beyond that, it gets into the West Cat territory, but we wanted to focus on that kind of that AC Transit corridor. So through the Hilltop Mall, Contra Costa College area. And I see that we may have a quorum. I'm just going to ask the chair if he wants me to continue or if we should go to the checklist items.
How many? Yeah, I saw that. How long will this take?
This can go long just because it generates a lot of questions.
Okay, then yes, let's, if nobody really objects on our team, I'd rather be respectful to our guests that are presenting tonight. But Matt, we will come back to this right where you left off. So do you want to introduce, I think San Ramon is first?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And tonight in the checklist department, we're getting through our stack of checklists. Tonight we have 2 cities representing kind of 2 different parts of the county. They're actually 2 of our newer cities, which is kind of unique. But I just checked, it takes 40 minutes to drive in no traffic from Oakley to San Ramon. So that's just how big and diverse our county is. I'm going to kick things off with San Ramon. Yet they are next on the agenda. Tonight we have a few staff members. The team is being led by Chris Weeks, who is on the transportation side, and the planning side is being represented by Ryan Driscoll, and the engineering public works side by Deborah Fear. But I'll let Chris follow up there with those introductions. But this is Chris's first time, and I'll just give a little background on Chris, since this is his first time here. His history in transportation is with Bishop Ranch. For years, he managed their transportation program, and as most of you probably know, they had have a pretty significant transportation demand management and shuttle busing program. And you'll hear about some of that stuff today, I think, as part of the San Ramon report, because they do work so closely with Bishop Branch. So Chris has kind of a unique perspective on transportation in the San Ramon area. But I'll shut up and let Chris and his team present their calendar year 2021 checklist. And then we'll open it up to questions when he's done. Chris?
Great, thanks, Matt. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So I have a little PowerPoint for you for some eye candy. See if I can get this going. Okay, can you guys see this okay? All right. So thank you for inviting the City of San Ramon to attend tonight's Citizens Advisory Committee meeting to present our 2020 and 2021 Growth Management Compliance Checklist as part of the cooperative process of regional growth management in Contra Costa County. My name is Chris Weeks, and I'm the Transportation Division Manager for the City of San Ramon. And I just realized Transportation Division Manager acronym is TDM. So I'm excited about that I discovered that tonight. I do love TDM. But we also have Deborah Fear, our Senior Traffic Engineer, is on the call today. And we also have Ryan Driscoll, our Associate Planner, and he'll be addressing any housing or planning questions. San Ramon is developing its own kind of special quality of life through our land use decisions while cooperating regionally on how we fit in with the plans for the region. And through development projects, transportation projects, programs and policies, we are navigating the changes COVID brought to our world and what we do in this world. This checklist is for 2020, 2021. And this I'm kind of framing it as this transition from pre-COVID transportation and the housing world before COVID to the new future with change variables and new opportunities. So 2020, when we were hit with this very interesting pandemic, no projects were entitled in 2020. People were just kind of working towards what was going to happen next. People were retrenching, changing their direction. People were traveling differently and living differently. So the following projects were entitled in 2021 and were subject to a traffic study. That's the City Village, Bishop Branch 6 that was approved in November 2021 and Belmont Village approved in November 2021. So, as Matt mentioned, I was at Bishop Branch before, and who would have predicted, if you know Bishop Branch at all, that there would be single family homes inside Bishop Branch pre-COVID? I mean, it was there was no chance of that happening, really. And so as Sunset kind of retrenched afterwards and looked at what they were going to be doing next, they made the decision to sell Bishop Branch 6, which is a major office cluster with Norris at the north, Executive in the south, Bishop in the east, and Camino Ramon in the west. So it's block. And it's actually single family homes, which is very interesting. So it was an exciting opportunity for the people that bought it to have single family homes in a place that's going to be getting denser going forward. So it'll be a very unique opportunity for owners to be able to purchase something like that. So 404 unit for sale residential infill development on 31 acres. And it was approved by the Planning Commission in November 2021. The second was Belmont Village Senior Care. And something here. Again, it's like, who would have predicted a 6-story building, residential building in Bishop Branch prior to COVID? It's it's another shocker. But there are things that people thought about and thought would be interesting to include. But here we have it. And 177 unit residential care for the elderly facility, 6 stories. Shared parking concept with adjacent BR1 office buildings, and it was also approved in 2021. So super interesting changes to an area that was basically primarily used for office buildings, and then a city center, which was supposedly going to be where everybody was going to go to lunch during the day. But now with housing coming, there's a lot more people who might be using that city center, and a lot more sense of center of gravity happening here around city center in the coming years. Also during this period, we saw kind of an equity change in the way that permits were issued. And so we have this chart here for how our permits were issued by affordability. And you see between 2020 and 2021, that moderate income category goes from 0 to 185. So there's this kind of path going towards this regional emphasis on providing something closer to affordable housing in a little bit more of a dense environment. So we feel that San Ramon is working with the region to try to address the housing challenges, and also include an equity component in what we're doing. And I put a couple bullets on here, thanks to Ryan here, that we just, in February 2023, the State Housing and Community Development Department certified the city adopted the 2023 through 2031 housing element. So that's a big success for us, and we're happy to see that. And it's all in line with these trends that we're seeing. And right now, our general plan 2040 update is under review. So that's kind of ending the housing piece, and we can come back and ask questions of Ryan as we proceed through the presentation. This is kind of moving more into the streets and roads component of the CIP. Just thought I'd start with that maintenance of effort requirement. I mean, we're very by far spending a lot more on improving our roadways to San Ramon. So I just wanted to show that. Check that box. And one thing you guys might be excited to see is, after many years, San Ramon has broken ground on the legendary Bollinger Canyon Iron Horse Trail overcrossing. Wish I could say I had more to do with this happening. It was all done by some of the people in this call, and also people in the jobs before me. But had a great groundbreaking, and there's Tim Hales in the picture up there. So finally everybody's excited to get a shovel in the ground. And so we're going to start people are going to start to see the first steps towards kind of traffic control plans in the coming month or so. So it's happening now, and we're super excited about it. And that plays into kind of the regional component of our planning focus. Is really, this is a major place where people have to stop constantly, and it stops traffic moving through the area. But it's also, we want to facilitate regional bike and ped movements, and putting this kind of money into a high profile, beautiful bridge in the center of this new destination, which will also be central to housing, plays well with the directions given to us by the GMP. So in 2020 and 2021, there was 11 million put towards this in those in our CIP. And then we have by 2025, the full all-in cost is going to be somewhere over 21 million. Hopefully we have a control of those prices, and hopefully inflation won't hurt us, but I think that we're pretty good on getting there. So we have a great team working on it, and the engineering department is bustling with activity, getting things ready to start construction. So during COVID also, it was a time of changing traffic patterns, and a lot of people didn't have to go to work. And for a while there, the wildlife owned the roads. You'd see coyotes walking down the middle of the road, that kind of weirdness. So there was a chance to really start looking at things and do a lot of good work. So our engineering teams looked at our bicycle master plan, which I'll talk a little bit more on the next slide, and was able to do some major improvements on adding bicycle infrastructure. And I know that's allowing and enabling cyclists to share the roadway with motorists safely is a central component of the GMP. So 19,245 lane feet of buffered bike lanes. That's something. And as a cyclist, I can tell you that this is one of the most beautiful things about this town for me is all that infrastructure. And they've done a great job putting this in and planning it and working with the community to put in what people are asking for. So this was the bicycle master plan that was done in 2018 and April 24th to be exact. And kind of building on the community developed bicycle master plan, San Ramon was able to use the lull in traffic around that time by changes in commute patterns to build an impressive bicycle network that resulted in League of American Bicyclists designation of San Ramon as a bronze level bicycle friendly community. So a first step towards being known for bicycling. So that's exciting for me. I had hoped that that would happen while I was at Bishop Ranch, but it wasn't quite there. Now we are designated. So next step is silver, and we've been given a whole series of things we need to do, including better counting, bicycle classes, and other things like that. So here's an example of what was done during this time period. Between this time period, the dark red is the improvement. So go back and forth there a couple of times. It's a significant improvement and a high quality improvement for the low stress bike network that we're all looking for in our action plans moving forward. So I'm impressed by this, and as a user, I like it. I think that drivers who don't bike are also startled by its presence. Especially some of the green conflict zones and boxes, and people are learning how to use those and how to relate to those. So we're looking forward to that resulting in more safety on the roadways and more cooperative environment between cyclists, pedestrians, and cars. So some of these improvements were a bike box. You can see that where it says Bishop Drive there in the middle, we put our first bike box. We have new bike lanes, green conflict zone, bicycle detectors, wherever you see that dashed line, and shared lane markings, other things. So it's exciting. And here's an example of one actual place put together by our engineering group. You can see in this first picture before, you see those two cyclists there, you just have a plain old dashed white line. And in the after, you have some really nice green conflict zone, 4-foot buffer attached to the edge of the old bike lane. So it actually creates this buffered space. Doesn't take a lot more space, but it actually, we had plenty of room to be able to do it. And it actually helped take some of the pressure off drivers to decide how close they can be to a cyclist. So we're excited to have added those things. Big part of this is this kind of multi-jurisdictional planning. And it's something that San Ramon prides itself on. Lisa Bobadilla, who's here before me, did a lot of these projects, and I've taken them on too. Work closely with the CCTA on the board and the TAC, working and attending Innovate 680 Policy and Technical Advisory Committee. And I'm a member of the Countywide Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So that's the Innovate piece and the regional guidance that we get through that Innovate 680 focus and attitude inspires us to look at new technology and other projects that we are experimenting with in town. We also are home to one of the autonomous vehicle pilots. So you may have seen that recently inside Bishop Ranch. So doing some testing that's going to be used right away in Rossmore, where those autonomous vehicles are going to move next, to see how they can be used and applied in that environment. We are the administrator for SWAT. So we focus on having prompt and succinct meetings and making sure SWAT follows all the rules and regs and gets everything posted on time, and coordinating the political side of regional programs. And we've been working closely with CCTA on the action plans and routes of regional significance on the political side. And then with our TVTC work, which we were the administrator for the last 3 years, just handed that over to Dublin this year. We've been working on those action plans too. We worked through the Tri-Valley Development Fee Nexus study, and we're looking forward to TVTC's traffic impact fee manual coming out in October. So we work closely with all these groups, and we were lucky to have some funding for our Ironhurst Trail overcrossing through TVTC also. So it paid off by cooperating regionally to get some funding for the overcrossing. So that was great. We're the administrator for Traffics, which is the school bus program that you see in the area. So we have staff in our office that runs the Traffics buses each day, 24 buses, 39 routes, and 11 schools throughout the San Ramon Valley. And those, that may change. We're doing a level of service analysis. So we're looking to add, if we can, new schools, at least rationalize our bus service. And the whole purpose of this bus service is to fix intersections that have high congestion. So that's why it's called Traffics. And so we're looking at that level of service now and seeing if we have indeed fixed those intersections and if there's other intersections that need fixing. So we're looking forward to addressing that. We also have the 501 Contra Costa Countywide TDM program is housed here in San Ramon. Darlene Amaral is our primary staff member who does that. And she administers CCTA's mobility programs in the SWAT region for that. Great programs like the e-bike rebates and van pool incentives and guaranteed ride home and all kinds of stuff like that available to anybody in our area. So it's great to have this all housed in one place and at the same time working regionally in coordination with CCTA. So last bit here is just kind of looking at what we're doing locally to try to kind of align with the region, just to make sure we're ready to receive things like the adaptive ramp metering and things like that, where we're looking at our special way to make sure our city can interface well with whatever comes our way from the cities near us or the highway. And we have our local roadway safety plan in place to identify high-risk locations and collision patterns. We have a great residential traffic calming handbook with tools and procedures for addressing residents' concerns in high-risk locations. We do Ironhorse Trail crossing improvements like the Bollinger Canyon overcrossing or this Montevideo Drive RFB that you see in this picture here to the right. We look to try to make sure that when we're hosting a regional bicyclist or a regional pedestrian, that they'll know what to expect at the intersections and be comfortable and safe moving through the area. We put major work into our pavement, and as I was mentioning in the earlier phase, our pavement condition index, we will always want to maintain above 70. We're currently at 77, which is pretty good for the city and pretty good in our region. And we recently added permit parking to our parking ordinance, which was pretty, not something that we ever thought we would do, but it definitely was important in our neighborhoods here in San Ramon, especially where there's conflict between a major trip generator and a community or a neighborhood. And last but not least, our traffic signal improvements, traffic signal controller upgrade. So it makes us ready for this future technology we're talking about and testing. Our recent traffic signal interconnect leads to this better communication between our traffic signals and our staff and each other. And then we're in the middle of a citywide fiber optic upgrade, and we're looking to be able to have more bandwidth for that very same purpose and more. And we're through our automated traffic signal performance measures, we're looking to create a situation of better performance. So all this is better, 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 and is all about communicating amongst communities and amongst technologies. And obviously, close to my heart is video detection for improved bicycle detection and monitoring, and that'll be part of hopefully getting our next level of bicycle-friendly community certification from League of American Bicyclists, silver. So that's my goal for that. So thank you for letting me talk a little bit about our GMP submittal, and look forward to your questions. And feel free to raise your hand. I'm sure Emily will guide the conversation.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, who has questions? Wow, somebody always has questions. There, Claire, you're up. Claire, you're on mute.
Yep. Sorry, not anymore. Sorry, I've got this on 2 different machines. Thank you. Great presentation. Congratulations on getting the lab bronze certification. Hopefully that'll spur the other surrounding communities on to get certifications of their own. I wanted to ask if any of the intersections for the bike plan have any signal. It looked like there was on one of your slides, it looked like there was detectors on a road that was east of the Iron Horse Trail. And it looked like that was the only road that had detectors in it. That one, the dashed one. Yes.
Yes, that's just a, can you hear me? Sorry, I can't see my
Yes,
name. Yeah, okay. So that's just an area where detection was added where it hadn't been before. So there's a loop detection and video detection all throughout the city. And we're just looking to get more video detection if possible where it's needed. And I'm always looking for new technology and new types of cameras. I was speaking with a member of our TAC yesterday, and they were talking about how there's thermal cameras that they think would be even better than our existing cameras. So we're on the lookout for those and are interested in piloting projects. And definitely I'd be excited if you guys do hear of stuff, send it my way.
Okay.
San Ramon's a good place to test out this kind of technology.
Got it. Thanks. Okay. So in other words, this is new detection.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Keith, you're up next, buddy.
Yeah, congratulations on the Bulgin Canyon Trail. Look forward to riding over that. Do you guys have a development fee program for your TDM measures?
We do. And that's PJ Dude, who's on my staff. She's the lead on that. And we try to have it comply as closely as possible with what TVTC has in their manual related to that. So we have our own independent one, but we're also always looking to TVTC to try to harmonize it with what's in the region. And, we struggle with, the same things everybody struggles with these things, exactly how to define the troop generation rates for one use versus another. Is it a care home, or is it just a senior exercise facility or something? And each one generates different numbers of trips, or it's based on the beds or something like that. So, that's my kind of layman's response. Deb, do you have anything you want to put in details there?
Well, your TDM measures, it seems like you guys are really good on the bicycle. What about public transportation? And what was your philosophy on when you have projects due to kind of restrict parking and do TDM measures to make it more easier for people to use public transit?
Well, that maybe Brian can answer that better. I mean, you could probably talk about it from the planning side.
Yeah, we do have some policies that require some TDM measures incorporated into new development projects for housing, in commercial too. Talking about fees specifically for TDMs.
Well, I was just curious if you had a fee program, which you do, just to because it's just to offset some of the costs that the county gives you that you charge new development.
Yes, we do.
To play for your transportation improvements.
Yeah, we have, as Chris was mentioning, we have 4 transportation related development impact fees, 1 city, and then 3 kind of sub-regional fees that are all applicable to projects.
And what are you doing? And I was wondering what the philosophy for your city was for improving public transit and what your parking philosophy is when you have projects. Do you try to restrict parking, or is it?
Yeah,
We
you want
do-
to, maybe you talk a little bit about parking and I could talk about transit. How about that?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris, on the
The
transit.
transit piece?
Yeah.
Okay, so our philosophy is that, definitely you want to work closely with your transit provider. So this is part of my DNA coming from Bishop Ranch, where we had one of the biggest express bus systems in the country for a while there. And you could still see some of those buses being used for other things too. They were able to justify funding for buses that are also used for like our school trippers and things like that. So it was a great partnership there. But as far as on behalf of the city working with County Connection, we're working to create a kind of a mixture of things, both more of a centrally located transit center for the town that is closer to city center, that is also brings in the new hydrogen express bus system that has been funded through grants that was originally going to go to the Bollinger Park and Ride. We're looking to have that come into the center of the housing area and also closer to city center, either at the existing transit center location or somewhere that's better. So we're working closely with CCTA on that. So once you get kind of a really good way to transfer between regional transit and local transit, something that has comfortable places to sit, restroom, that kind of thing, but is easy for faster moving long distance buses to get to, then you have to make sure you facilitate the movement of buses through the town once people have transferred at this transfer location to their local service. And I'd be lying to say that transit isn't struggling. Transit is definitely struggling. We do have local service that is relatively successful compared to express service, because since people have not returned to work at the numbers anywhere near what we were before COVID, there's a kind of a new emphasis on local service and improving that service and making it richer. So if you talk to County Connection, our provider, they'll tell you the same thing, that it's these local services that they're really hanging their hat on. And our local service is the 35 that goes kind of in an arc through the town, along Bollinger and some other places. And we'll get you to Dublin BART. And then to the north, we have our local service, the 21, which will get you all the way to Walnut Creek BART. And then during the peak commute, there's still the express buses that go north and south along 680 and get you there a little bit faster, but you aren't going to be able to get out in a lot of places. So since people aren't going to work as much, they're moving around town. And so we have this kind of readdressing of local service and looking at new ways to provide it. Another thing that San Ramon has done is we're piloting the Go San Ramon program, which was, we had a bus that was canceled due to low ridership, but we still had demand for it, transportation in those areas, but not enough to fund a bus. So we came up with this Go San Ramon program where we'll pay $5 of an Uber trip if you are going either to or from San Ramon with using Uber. So that's been interesting for first, just people in San Ramon, local people moving from their house to city center or from city center to BART or things like that. But then we also opened it up to people who might be using it to commuting. So now we've added a whole other funding source and are expanding that. And now we've seen a lot of interest from seniors that are interested in starting to use this. They just want to figure out how they can be comfortable and safe in those Uber cars. So we're looking at new ways to do that. So I guess the short answer to your, what's your philosophy? I could tell you what, within transportation division, our philosophy is specifically, we like transit, and having a transit alternative is always better than not. And the problem is making it affordable for people and making it convenient for people to get to. So that's part of what we're working on now, is how people are going to get that last mile. So we've been experimenting with Bird micromobility scooter program here in town. We launched a pilot that ran for 4 months, and they weren't able to run it in a way that was comfortable for the people in the neighborhoods. The scooters weren't removed quickly enough. for people. They'd be standing in their kitchen, looking at the scooter there, and it was there for many hours, and it made people uncomfortable in the suburbs to see that scooter there. So we're looking at a new operator, and we're looking to see whether we might do something like e-bikes focused only, not scooters this time. But we're definitely sensitive to that last mile and how we're going to provide transportation in the neighborhoods. And, that it signals why there's these autonomous buses being tested in town. Those guys aren't ready for prime time and transportation in our neighborhoods, but they might be in the next 10 years. So doing the basic work and learning how to test them and their limitations and potential by having the tests in town, it shows that the city itself has a priority to try to figure out this last mile problem. Hopefully that's enough for you to understand where we're coming from.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's great, Chris. And Michael's going to be up next, but before that, I would say keep us posted as you deploy. Maybe you don't have to come back and do a whole presentation, but I'd be curious to know as you deploy the results of the scooter program, what your numbers look like in that small condensed area. And as you roll out an e-bike program, I think we'd love to know that data. So even if you just share that with Matt and Matt can present that with us, we'd appreciate maybe if you make a note in your calendar for like 6 more months, right? Like after Thanksgiving to update us, that we'd appreciate that.
Okay, just wrote down 6 months.
Awesome. Michael, you're up.
Am I? I thought Ro was up before me, but I'm happy.
Okay, Ro, you gave up your shot. That was nice of you. Ro, you're up. How's that? He's on mute, lost somewhere in the woods.
Yeah.
Maybe the still. Okay. Hi, thank you. Just a quick question on autonomous vehicles. On the picture of the bike lanes, on phase 3, would there be any consideration for adding more protective barriers to keep the bicyclists protected from future autonomous vehicles?
A good question.
Or any consideration?
Yeah, we definitely have had discussions about what a solid barrier would be like. And, there's pluses and minuses. One of the big minuses of having some kind of solid barrier is keeping the bike lane clean. So we're, while we bring up that barrier to barriers, we're talking at the same time about how to remove that. Is there a smaller street sweeper that we could get for behind whatever that barrier is going to be? But the question now is, what if we do put in these barriers, and there is discussions of barriers in our bicycle master plan, because we thought that we would want to look at some of our buffered bike lanes might want to be fortified with some type of barrier. But at that time, there wasn't in 2018, there wasn't as much emphasis on these kind of puffy bollards that you've seen in a lot of the towns. So we've been kind of watching those, and a lot of those are knocked over or smashed. And it's like, how much protection does that really provide if something does go awry? So there's some stuff produced by Ceres, which has, some kind of lighter barrier, but we haven't arrived or landed on the perfect type of barrier for San Ramon yet. And I know that we're interested in experimenting with it and seeing what we can come up with, something that's not so impenetrable that it becomes a major barrier to cleaning the bike lane or allowing bikes to move safely. Because if there is something in the bike lane, having a barrier makes it so that you can't get out of the way. Say a branch falls in there and you don't see it till the last minute, you can't weave. So, there's pluses and minuses to barriers, but the one that we're struggling the most now with is exactly what that barrier is going to be comprised of. And whether you want it to be something very, very soft, like those big puffy bollards that you see people putting in other cities, like Walnut Creek has a bunch of those. And whether you want to give a false sense of protection if it doesn't really indeed protect somebody, or if you want to go for something that's much more solid and that actually does stop a car or does stop an autonomous vehicle or does stop something, whatever you're trying to stop, you have to think about that also constrains the movement of the cyclist and might create dangers for cyclists too. So I don't think that there's any perfect answer for that personally yet, but we're definitely looking to experiment. And we have a couple of places in town that need help related to barriers, and we're going to be looking at those a little bit in the rewrite of our bicycle master plan. So we're going to update it this year. So we're going to do a series of community outreach to look where people want to see an emphasis on bicycle transportation and infrastructure first. I also got access to Strava's data set. So Strava is this computer that a lot of cyclists have on their handlebars. And they volunteered this year that anybody who wanted to use their data set could apply for it. And I applied for it for San Ramon, and they said we could use that. So it's a new set of data that's like actual bike movements that we can get that shows how long trips are taking, who's taking those trips. And I think when combined with demographics that we can get from the census and other places, we can use that data to come up with some amazing improvements to our master plan, and hopefully come up with some great locations to test out some innovative infrastructure like you're talking about.
Okay, great. Michael, and then we'll get to Kent.
All right. Hey, very well. Couple of questions and one comment stroke plea. Lots of stuff about bicycles. Great story there. Curious on a sad note around bicycles in San Ramon. There was the fatality with the Greg Knapp, the coach of the New York Jets. I think it was on Daughtery in 2021. Mm-hmm. What were the lessons learned from that? What have you thought about and perhaps adapted in your bicycle plan going forward as a result of that, the fatality that was a bit under 2 years ago, if my timing's right?
Yeah. Well, we haven't had our master plan update yet, so I can't say that there's been changes to the master plan done yet, but it's going to be done this year. So that in that process, we'll be taking into account lessons learned from that situation. Very tragic death of a cyclist. It was, and I think that there's many lessons to be learned from it. But I think that our position is that we want to make, wherever there's a fatality, wherever there's an injury, we want to look at that location and bolster it and improve it and use it as a way to make something better. And there's already been some adjustments to the bike lane, moving it closer to the curb in that area and simplifying it, how it's applied to in that area. So that may have a positive improvement on visibility of cyclists or where people expect to see a cyclist. So that's one, action we took immediately. But I think moving forward, it's going to be more us sitting down with the community and saying, what do you want to see here? And, we can look at the roadway, make sure that our the speeds being traveled by motorists are what are expected, and do our speed surveys to make sure that the speed is set correctly, and it is. But I think that the answer to that location will probably be some kind of barrier, but I don't think it's going to be a solid barrier. I think it'll be probably some kind of more permeable barrier of some sort, but we haven't arrived at that yet. So it's a very difficult question. Whenever someone loses a life, it's a very high concern for people who focus their lives on safety for people. And I can assure you that it's taken seriously here within San Ramon, and we're going to learn from it.
Yeah. Well,
is there anything?
I guess as in the capacity of an advisor on an advisory committee, I would say be careful not to focus on the specific location of where that incident happened, but consider you've got so many miles of bike lanes, and that incident could be translatable to somewhere in town 5 miles away. And it's about preventing the one, that could happen next year somewhere else in the town, not so much that particular place. I guess lightning could strike twice, but where are there similar situations elsewhere, the lessons that can be applied, and perhaps, in other towns in Contra Costa and elsewhere, is there a lesson that others should be taking on board? So would encourage you to do that. My final question, I was intrigued by the goal of a PCI of 70. I know some of the very best have PCIs in the 80s. I guess theoretically you can get 100. I would guess that's unaffordable. But how do you settle on 70 as the optimum versus 50, which I would suspect not cost your town much money? 100 would be prohibitive. How did 70 come out as the score you wish to achieve in that metric?
Yeah, well, it could have been that I said this incorrectly. So hopefully Deb Fear could chime in here and tell us more about that. Deb, do you have a moment to support on that?
Yes, and I apologize for not having my video on. I'm having issues with my bandwidth. So I apologize for that. So I'm not an expert on pavement management, but I know that is the level of service that the city has chosen as it, being, what we want to achieve. I don't know exactly why that number was specifically chosen, but that's the level of service that the city wants to have.
Yeah, and I could see if I can get you a better answer. I mean, I know that I saw a presentation by one of the pavement management people the other day where they were talking about their philosophy about not letting roads deplete in quality beyond a certain level, because the amount of investment that you have to put in to bring it up is so much more if you let it go below a certain level, that they're kind of constantly topping off roads to stop them from going below a certain quality, because over time that's a better investment to do it's a little bit sooner. Allow them to degrade a little bit. Obviously, you can't put a new road in every day, but degrade to the point where it's not very expensive to fix, but relatively you've had enough time to enjoy the initial improvement. So that's a good question. And I'll see if I can get that answer for you guys, like why we arrived at 70. I think Danville also has 70 as theirs too. So I wasn't around when it was made, but I could ask around and see if I can get some good answer for you, Michael.
Okay. I'll do a little probing myself. Yeah, it's a metric that we keep seeing more and more of, so I'm trying to better understand it. Last is a comment, no need to answer. I hate the new traffic light at the Costco, which is shared between my Danville and your town. I know it's necessary, but it seems to be causing more trouble than good. And I don't know what sort of look back or sort of process exists to say, is this doing what we intend it to do? There's a lot of dynamic going on all the way into the parking lot, and it's kind of an interesting spectacle to watch. And so it's just something at the risk of being incredibly provincial that I'll mention here. No need to answer. Maybe we can take it offline at some point. I've asked Danville the same thing, by the way. So
it's a good question. And that project's pretty much done. I think that there's some striping stuff I think that's still inside the Costco lot that I think that they're going to be doing related to it. But I don't know, Deb, do you have anything you want to add to this to talk about that, or should we just get Michael his info offline?
We can just get his info or
Okay.
get his info to him offline.
Okay, yeah, we'll shoot you some more info on that. Just tell you what we've observed, just to quench your curiosity there. Combine it with what you get from Danville.
All right, we'll see. We'll see if the two stories line up.
Thank you.
Kent, you're up.
Yeah, I had one question about you referred to the residential traffic calming program in your presentation, and I just looked it up here. Maybe I haven't been paying attention, but I have never heard of anything like that. Here in Pinole, we hear a lot of people bringing up traffic calming and wanting to calm traffic. And so I really noticed this document here, and I guess most of my questions were just about how, like, is this common? How could other communities implement something like this? It looks like it's something you guys put together yourselves. I don't see consultants listed. I wonder if it's mostly just general principles, or if the document somewhere has like specifics on how you want to achieve traffic calming in San Ramon. I haven't looked at it long enough, but has it been implemented long enough for there to be some specific implementations and results in San Ramon? Like, has this
Yeah.
document resulted in concrete changes? So
Yes, for sure. And it's the process has been very, very helpful. I've just been with the city for a year, so maybe Deb can chime in after I'm done, just to give a little bit of background if she knows it. But I know from applying it just since we've been here, the process is really what is helpful, and it channels people's energy towards something that actually will make something happen if it's needed. And it creates a situation where there's an assessment, there's enforcement, there's the step-by-step process that you can rely on, that it's not just going to be, oh, the city didn't like me, so they didn't do it. It's going to be, oh, well, they did it. They did enforcement, and that enforcement was the first step, and they actually found some people speeding, and they gave tickets. And so if they gave tickets, then there's something going on here. And so then you can actually have something to hang your hat on when you're moving forward with an improvement for a neighborhood.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I don't know if there was any, when it was developed, if there was a grant. I don't know the answer to that, or if we had a consultant come up with it, but I can tell you that there's been many, many years of experience with this in San Ramon, and cities they have to develop something like this, or there's just no other way to address the number of calls that you get on a regular basis about speeding cars, or someone who's someone's kid always peels out in front of the house and drives around the corner, and then all of a sudden that makes it so there's a speeding problem. Well, no, that's one person. So if you just have enforcement out there, you can write a ticket and you're done. Or if there is some kind of bigger systematic problem, then you have a process to ask for something like a speed bump, the type of stuff you need to do. And it's the questions that people ask a million times. And so it's really helpful to have these tools. So maybe Deb can chime in here and say how it was developed. Do you know more about that, Deb?
I can give you a little bit of insight. So I've been with the city since 2009, and this program was in place before I even started there.
Wow.
From the background of what I know, I believe the city developed it ourselves. There was no grant, there was no consultant, and it's just been refined throughout the years. We've added tools to our toolbox, and gotten more of a streamlined process through it. But and we have so it's a phase 1 and a phase 2, and phase 2 goes more into physical improvements, and we have actually installed speed humps on several streets that met the requirements of the residential traffic calming program. And the speed humps have actually shown a significant decrease in speeding. It's been in place for quite a while. We did update it like 2 years ago, and we just keep using it.
And it's really helpful when we get someone on the phone who's very passionate about something, an idea they saw in a town, or, I remember a call where someone wanted a roundabout at their intersection because they saw a roundabout and they thought it would be a good thing. But when we looked into it, there was all these other steps you could take before doing something like a roundabout, which takes it basically blowing up the entire intersection and rebuilding absolutely everything. There was all these other steps we go through where we'll go and inspect the intersection. We'll update all the existing striping. We'll look at the signage, make sure that's good. make sure it's visible, and check, put out radar signs that track speeding throughout the day. And we make sure that it's still within the 85th percentile for the speeding through the area. And that there isn't a general policy of speeding on the street that people are following. But if it shows that there is ongoing speeding and we have tested it and we have the data, then we can go and look at why. And once you start looking at why, it opens up, where are these people coming from and where are they going? And, or most recently, there's some construction on Crow Canyon Road where people have discovered a cut through one of our neighborhoods where traffic volumes doubled when we started it. And the neighborhood really had some ideas about what they wanted to see there, but a lot of them weren't legal, for one, or they didn't like some of the ideas that would have been first steps. So they came to our TAC and we sat with them and heard everybody's ideas, and they learned a lot. And we are going to be continuing to work with them to come up with how we're going to address this. And one of the interesting things is, once Google Maps or Waze or all these computer technologies learn how to create a fast way to get around something, it's hard for those computers and phones to unlearn that. So you basically, the phone is trained to learn and use the cut through. So you almost have to change something to try to address it, whether it's the end of the construction, for example, that might fix it. But maybe that's not it. Maybe now that people know it's a cut through, they'll be using it all the time. So then how do you make it less convenient? And then the computer, then the Waze or Google learns that it's not as fast and stops recommending it to people. So yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a long answer, but I mean, I guess the last piece is like, how do you get something like this in your town? I would say share it with Pinole and just be like, hey, we should get a process like this. And you could even just, I mean, I'm sure we'd be fine you just taking what we did and doing it, put Pinole on it, put your logo on it somewhere. I don't care. But I guess I'd have to talk to Deb about that. But I mean, it's just, start by sharing it around and just say, is there a way that we can adopt a program like this so that people can actually give productive input on updates to their streets?
Great, thanks.
So Michael, do you have a quick follow-up? Or was your hand raised from earlier?
I'm a little slow lowering my hand. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. All right, so I have two things, Chris. One, on your regional routes like Foothill, which goes in between Alamo, Danville, etc., and goes south of you, and maybe some others that I don't know, do you ever meet with the towns that it goes through to coordinate like street lighting and traffic flow and helping fix those regional routes?
Yeah, well, I know for sure that we all of the neighboring communities are on our regional boards. So SWAT, TVTC, we're all on there together. So in my world, which is more kind of the regional coordination piece, yes, we're talking about these things, and as they come up, we're sharing them so that we can work together to try to address the problem. So there was for example, there's that major culvert that fell apart on Diablo Road over the winter, and they basically had to close the road. And so we worked closely with Danville to anticipate what kind of traffic we were going to have. And they actually worked with us to reroute our traffic bus system through the town of Diablo, which was, I couldn't believe that they were able to negotiate it. It was so great that Diablo was willing to allow just the school buses to go through, but not cars. So it was like we were able to even address things like fine-tune things like that to be able to coordinate it. So I mean, on the political level, that's my answer. But Deb, do you ever meet with Andy or talk with Andy about that kind of stuff over at Danville?
Oh, yes, I coordinate with Danville and Dublin all the time. We're also working with CCTA on a project called the Smart Signals Project, which is going to be a multi-jurisdictional coordination for incidences or anything that happens on the freeway that would require the parallel arterials to have, sort of, flush plans or, different kind of traffic timing plans. That's a huge undertaking. But yeah, we definitely coordinate with our neighbors.
That's great. By the way, I asked that question of everybody who comes through here, and I would say 8 out of 10 of the answers are not the same as you guys give. So I appreciate the fact that you're having those conversations and doing that. And part of the CCTA coordination on the smart signals is why we're asking that, is to get everybody to really start talking and help facilitate that. And the other thing is, as we go to a motion to approve this, it occurs to me we do not have a member from San Ramon to nominate you. So that letter and request is with your town clerk. But since you, Chris and Deb, are the ones who know transportation, maybe you can help us recruit somebody from San Ramon so you have representation here. But maybe since nobody from San Ramon can nominate you, maybe your neighbor from Danville would like to make a motion now, at least, so we don't leave you hanging.
I'd be honored to, and I make a motion to approve the plan.
Thank you, Michael.
Awesome. Do I have a second, anybody?
I'll second.
Thanks, Claire. Patty, I saw you taking off your mic. I appreciate that. Okay, Emily, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Member Bankert,
Yes.
Member Bristow,
Yes.
Member Esquivel,
Yes.
Member Linder,
Yes.
Member Moriarty,
Approve?
Member Wayne,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr,
Yes.
Chair Ash.
Yep.
The motion passes unanimously with members Chahal, Hammond, Miller, Osuna, Saunders, and Vega absent.
Thanks, guys. And seriously, if you can help find and recruit somebody, work with your clerk and find somebody from San Ramon, so you guys have a good quality representative here for the rest of the county as well.
Okay, sounds great. And we have a new city manager too, so maybe you can give us some ideas on that. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I'm going to do a time check. We're at 7:12. At the rate we're going, we'll probably go over 8. So just so everybody's aware. Oakley is up next. Matt, do you want to introduce them?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Ash. Tonight, in addition to San Ramon, we have Oakley representing East County. And tonight we have Kevin Rahani, who is the city engineer, I think, / public works director. I think he holds a couple of hats out there. And as I mentioned earlier, these were 2 of our newest cities. Oakley is, in fact, the newest city in the county, I think, incorporated around 91. You can correct me, Kevin. And they have some different rules on their checklist because of their newness and that they didn't have a history of maintenance. So you saw Chris present their maintenance of effort requirement, and I'll just note that Oakley doesn't have that requirement because they didn't have a maintenance history for us to base a maintenance of effort minimum on. So just some checklist trivia for you before I hand it over to Kevin and let him introduce the City of Oakley's checklist. Kevin?
Thanks, Matt. Chair Ash, members of the Citizen Advisory Committee, very pleased to be with you tonight and make a little presentation about Oakley. Interesting, we had tonight you get to see San Ramon and Oakley. Certainly San Ramon, a sophisticated, modern city, which is a little bit different than Oakley. Oakley is in the far east, Contra Costa County, near the Delta, rural, kind of a up-and-coming city. As Matt mentioned, Oakley was incorporated in 1999, about 20 plus years ago, and primarily agricultural community for the past many decades. And over the past years, ever since incorporation, Oakley's tried to, trying to make it into a more functioning city. Oakley just, unlike a lot of the cities in the central county and in the west county, we're pretty much a bedroom community. The statistics what I hear is like 80% of this community leaves for work about 4 a.m. not to get stuck in the traffic of Highway 4 and beyond, to job centers in San Jose, San Francisco, Oakland, all those parts. And they start coming home pretty much this time of the night. So this is just a nature. Community has tried over the past years really hard to bring commercial job centers to Oakley area. And as you can imagine, it's been a slow process, but we're still working at it and trying to, kind of get Oakley to a more modern city. When Oakley was incorporated about 20 years ago, had a population of about 20,000. Fast forwarding to today, has a population north of 45,000, and expected, if all the growth continues in the next 10-15 years, it'll be over 65,000. All of the farms that I mentioned that has been bought by developers, they are building single-family homes. These are all starter homes, no custom homes, nothing the typical. Some of the houses you see in the central county with a lot of bells and whistles, these are your tract homes, starter homes, and people come out here in search of affordability. They have to put up with this, kind of exhaustive commute, but that's just the price to pay. To give you just a little overview of our capital improvement programs, again, my presentation is not as elaborate as San Ramon, but it just gives you a window to what we do out here in Oakley. We try to, with a limited funding that's available and rely heavily on grants, take care of the streets, our general infrastructure to the extent possible. One of our projects was resurfacing of street repair and resurfacing, which we undertook throughout the community using funding available, including some from Measure J, doing slurry seal, dig out, base repair, and overlay. This was throughout the community. One of the issues that we have in Oakley, we have had, was back in the day, there was a DuPont factory here near Highway 160 and Bridgehead Road that, as a part of their production, one of the byproduct was this material called Sierra Crete that they had sold to the county, a number of the cities out here, to use as roadway base. Again, fast forwarding to now, this material kind of didn't perform as advertised, and it decomposes and oozes really out of the asphalt. And now, as we go through our street repair, we have to dig the stuff up, completely gut it out, and put new base and asphalt on it. So it's just one of the areas we're challenging, but we're trying to pick it up as we go. Bridgehead Road widening, this was a roadway project we did in conjunction with the kind of our feature attraction in Oakley. You might have heard the Amazon campus right at the border of Oakley and Antioch. This is on Oakley, fortunately. But this was a kind of an old country road. As a part of this project, they fronting this road, fronting this campus was fully improved to all complete street standard with streets, bike lane, curb, gutter, underground utilities, sidewalk. This prior to this was just literally a 2-lane road with nothing. So this has been one of our major projects that was completed. We're doing on Main Street. This is the Contra Costa Water District Canal runs under the roadway. This is an old bridge that has been in need of repair and retrofit. We have applied for grant funding through federal government. We finally got it, and this project is right now into bid to basically resurface and improve the deck of this bridge that has decomposed over the years. In our downtown area, one of the areas that we're trying to again change the narrative about Oakley from a rural community to a little bit more modern, functional city is our downtown. Basically going through a major rehabilitation and reconstruction on Main Street. Again, back in the day, this was just a 2-lane road with no curb, nothing, just your very country look. We have turned into a modern downtown infrastructure, curbs, sidewalks, a lot of streetscape, underground utilities, very nice sidewalks, and also construction of parking lots to hopefully, we hope we build it and they come. We don't have a problem that San Ramon has of term parking. We're trying to build this parking, hoping that commercial development will eventually come to Oakley and use these parking lots. Also, in the purple, we've been working for the past 10 years with the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority to build a train platform station in Oakley. And earlier this year, Amtrak decided to decommission their station in Antioch down the road and build this station to complement the infrastructure improvement that Oakley is doing. And our project, what you see, the Journey Way, O'Hara extension, all of this parking lot is under construction right now, will be finished by end of this year. And Amtrak is going to start their project is under design. They're going to start construction by summer of next year, and they hope to finish by spring of the following year. And this would, again, a major enhancement for downtown Oakley, where we will get to have this passenger trains, Amtraks that's coming from way down south around Modesto will come here, pick and drop off passenger, and this goes to Oakland. And then from there, it has access to BART and all of the other train and public transportation. And we hope this will rejuvenate downtown Oakley and give it more life and vitality. East Cypress Road, most of the growth in Oakley is along the East Cypress Road corridor. This road literally runs into deltas. You can't go further in the county than this road. And all of the houses you see in the picture, these are the farmlands that farmers sold and developed, where we have a multiple arrangements of developers who have come bought these farms, and kind of the cattle have gone and brand new homes have come. These houses, they were selling, I'd say 5 years ago, they were selling about $400,000. You could come out here, buy a brand new house for about $450,000. And now the same houses, they're selling them in the $600,000 to $650,000 range, and perhaps some even more. So even out here, the prices are higher for houses, but everything being relative, I mean, same house, just 40 minutes down in Walnut Creek is $1.5 million. And we've been working to improve this roadway. This was purely a country road, as country road could be, 2-lane with nothing, and has deteriorated. So now it's getting the look of a modern roadway with bike lanes, again, all of the formal infrastructure. One of the components that Oakley is working with the CCTA to implement Vision Zero is this local streets and road safety plan. We're working to improve our roadways. This picture you see is on Laurel Road, which is our only direct connected to Highway 4. And we resurfaced and improved this roadway about 3 years ago. And this is the only road in Oakley where we actually have a buffered bike lanes. We felt this is, again, we want to kind of keep up with some of the more progressive cities in terms of how bike lanes are done. So, and this is a major roadway, high speed. So we installed these buffered bike lanes on Laurel Road. Another project, again, this is the other end of Laurel Road that got resurfaced, and Oakley, again, a little different from San Ramon with a much larger bicycle community. We really have no bike community to speak of or bicycle demands in Oakley. And we build all of our new roadways to adhere to the complete streets with, all of the formal infrastructure. But we get a lot of citizens who call and say, why are you building bike lanes? We want parking. Again, just our community is different to be, and the demand, but we put the bike lanes, but we do get a lot of pushback that why bike lanes? We want parking. On-street parking is much more desirable out here than bike lanes. On the development side, again, things have been slow. Our ADU permits, I asked our planning staff to give us some statistic. It's not much comparing to perhaps some of the other cities are all in single digits, and they forecast in 24 probably 9 ADUs. All of our growth is based on new subdivisions, large subdivisions. I mean, here they buy 100 acres and build a 500 lot subdivision. Right now, at the far east end of Oakley, on Bethel Island Road, De Novo Homes is developing, and they have a project to build over 800 subdivision, large subdivision with multiple round of design features, but these are all, again, starter homes. Our most recent and the only new apartment complex that has been built in Oakley in the past 10 years that I'm aware of is Elm Street. This is a affordable apartment community. The developer got a lot of federal grants, federal and state grants to build this. It's about 170 of 1 and 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. It's right next to Highway 160 and Main Street at the far west edge of Oakley. And this project is almost finished. I believe they plan to have tenants moved in by September. This is another project, was a senior apartment housing on Main Street. This was finished about 2 years ago. A lot of focus on affordability. Out here, people come out here, again, not to buy custom homes, but more for affordability, for whether it be apartments, senior housing, or any of that. That's the feature, attraction, and a draw. Another subdivision, Acacia. This is on the east end of the town. This is like one of the very few gated communities. We have all single family houses. We do not have any multi-family, condominium, townhouse type of developments in Oakley. All single family. This project finished about 2 years ago. And the Summer Lake North subdivision that I mentioned is in the far east Oakley. Literally, you can't go further east. This is a picture of the large development. De Novo Homes is building, like I said, over 800 houses over the next few years. And they plan to start pulling building permits by the end of this year. And this concludes, again, my brief presentation. Again, not as elaborate as San Ramon. We just don't have all of those bells and whistles, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Appreciate your presentation here. And I had the honor of visiting your downtown recently by City Hall, and found it. I was surprised. It's clean, it's nice, it's new, it's walkable. That Scipolina's there is happening. So you guys are really doing a good job out there. All right, team, who's got questions first? All right, I'll go with my question about that regional routes. I'm not familiar with your roads so much out there, but which roads are regional, going between multiple towns that there could be backups on, and what are you doing to coordinate with other cities on that?
We have basically two roadways, two streets that go east and west and north and south out of town. Main Street, which connects us to Brentwood on the east end of the town. And this Main Street, from what I understand, back in the day, used to be the old Highway 4 before the new Highway 4 was constructed a number of years ago. So this is way back when there was just pure country, just a 2-lane road. And Main Street, actually right where you visited in downtown in front of City Hall, that was the old Highway 4 from what I was told. So it has come up a long way from that road to what you see today. And we've spent many millions trying to, again, make it into a modern, nice looking street. And then going east and west is Laurel Road that goes to Antioch. And that is our only connection to Highway 4. And for the longest time, it ended at Highway 4, Laurel Road. Just last year, Antioch, on their side of the highway, there was some development. As a part of that development, they completed Laurel Road and connected the two section of the roadways together. So now you can drive on Laurel Road, go across Highway 4, and you're in Antioch. So I work with our colleagues. I keep in touch. We haven't had it in a while, but we had these quarterly coordination meeting to just keep up with the happenings of each community and what, especially on the public works side of the ledger that I deal with, projects and initiatives that we can collaborate. We try to, for instance, when we bid projects, coordinate, so we bid them at the same time, so contractors get to bid both of our projects concurrently. There are some economies of scale. Again, out here, we're handicapped by lack of resource. A lot of almost all contractors who bid Oakley projects, they're not from Oakland, San Jose, San Francisco. They're all from Central Valley, Sacramento, the other side. So we're trying to collaborate and bid projects and team up, so to get a better value for each of the respective cities.
Yeah, that's interesting that sometimes there's more of a connection to the Central Valley areas than there is to the Bay areas, right? All right, I see Kent, your hand is up.
You mean Keith?
No, go ahead, Keith.
I was doing Kent first, then Keith.
All right.
Okay, I'll ask my question. I was just looking at the packet that we get, and at the very end is the annual reporting form for how the Measure J funds are spent, which is why you're here, right? To get those funds. And it's 2 pages because it's 2 years. And it starts in July of 2020, you guys had a balance of 600,000. And then 2 years later, you had balance of 1.5 million almost, because it doesn't look like very little of the money was spent. And I was wondering, are you guys saving up for something, or has the money being spent in the meantime? Because for these 2 years, this little snapshot, only a small percentage of the Major J funding is being spent.
No, we're not saving anything. We don't have the luxury of saving. We're city's resources. We rely heavily on gas tax, Measure J, any other type of source of revenue we get for our, projects. So probably what you see, each year we get about $600,000 to $700,000 Measure J, and that's be allocated across our operation for various projects. Some of them that you saw, probably that $1+ million that you see. Our finance department has not caught up with all of the accounting of those. But no, when we get funding every year, let's say our fiscal year, like many cities, begins on July 1st, and we have some projects that roll over from 1 year to another, so the expenditure might have not been done. But yeah, on all of our funding sources, there is no saving. We spend it because we have to use every penny for projects.
Well, if you're spending it all, and after 2 years it's not showing up on the books, I don't know. It looks like your finance department's not keeping up.
Well, speaking of our finance department or our operation collectively, I think the committee needs to know, like I said, Oakley is a city of about 45,000 population. And for a city of 45,000 population, we have the smallest staff collectively, everything from police to every other department. So like our public works department, my operation is like 15 people. This is maintenance, engineering, parks, admin. So even our finance department, we have a very, very small staff. So a lot of the stuff that, let's say, other cities may have multiple people keep track of this thing. We're delayed in not only just recording and reporting all of these things. So if you want more specific, I can talk to our finance folks tomorrow. And
okay, I'm just looking at what I see here, and for 21-22, you started the year with 800,000, got 700,000, so that's like 1.5 million. You only spent 120,000, according to what I'm looking at. So either this annual reporting is way off, or you didn't spend anything that year.
Matt, can you weigh in?
Yeah.
Maybe help Kevin weigh in on the process. I think Kent's raising some good questions here.
Yeah. So, I mean, the city is reporting as required on their expenditures, but and I will say, Kent, when you look at these, especially if you just look at 1 or 2 years at a time, it doesn't necessarily make sense. It's hard to follow the money, and it is mostly about timing, because we're issuing the funding to them kind of the city of Oakley hasn't gotten their fiscal year 21-22 funding from CCTA yet, but they've also already got fiscal year 21-22 in their rear view mirror by over a year now. So there's a whole lot of timing issues when it comes to receiving the money and then reporting the expenditures. So a lot of the times you need to look at almost like 4 or 5 of those reports to really see. And sometimes they do spend it all at once. They'll do a big paving program and spend $3 million at once, and the next year they've only spent 100,000.
Yeah.
So you know, if you want, I could collect a few of their reports just to see if it makes sense. But if you feel like we need to inquire within the city, we can do that too. But, you know, in terms of my reviews, I think they've been reporting correctly, but just looking at these two, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying there's things that aren't correct. It's just during the presentation, I hear that there's not enough money. And then when I look in the reporting form, the money's not getting spent. And the answer I get is, well, our finance department can't keep up. And so I
wouldn't.
I don't think you have to have 4 years. I get it if you're saving up for a project, but if money isn't being spent in 2 years, it's fine if you're saving up for something. But
No, let me clarify something. When we get Measure J, 600,000-700,000 a year, that is not put for just one projects. We have needs across the board. So that money is divided into multiple items. 100,000 here, 50,000 there, 200,000 there. Again, some cities may take their whole Measure J and put it on a multi-million-dollar project. We just don't have the luxury to do that. So we spread this Measure J across multiple projects. Some of them are done the same year. Some of them is rolled over to next year. That's why you'll see. But you know, our accounting, I don't think that there's nothing saved. This is just some project may get delayed by a year, so that's why there's a rollover, and you see some that hasn't been spent.
I think to Ken's point here is part of our approval process is to vet that funding. And we're not saying that you're not using the money or not saving the money. I think Kent's just showing like it's not on the sheet, right? And how it's allocated. And so when we're asked to approve it, this is like our one sort of legal responsibility as a group is to approve these funds. We just got to make sure in your report that we're doing it correctly, right? So, and we're not questioning where it is. We're just making sure like we got to have that information, right, Ken?
yeah,
Yep, perhaps Kevin, you can check with your finance department and just you know, make sure they're comfortable that all the expenditures have been accounted for.
Certainly, I can do that and I'll let you know tomorrow.
Okay. Keith, you're up.
Okay, so, yeah, I know now you're like a small city, 45,000, but I guess between you and Brentwood, you're probably got to be the two fastest growing cities in Contra Costa. What kind of TDM measures are you planning? What is for specifically for the BART station in Antioch? It's about what, 6 miles away. I see that there's like 2 bus routes that go there from Oakley. And also I know you say you're not big bike riders out there, but you probably will be in about 10 or 15 years. So what are the plans about specifically for people to ride their bike from Oakley to the Antioch BART?
Locally in this region, there is a Tri-Delta Transit who runs the bus system, and they have say a number of bus routes that the buses go through. They actually built a new parking lot last year that was finished on Main Street and Cypress Avenue. It's a large parking lot that they plan to use as one of their hubs. And they're really promoting it for people to use public transportation. That's been a slow process, but that facility is there. And also they plan to run buses from that facility to the downtown platform station that I mentioned. And again, to promote more public transportation, just because of where we are geographically, everybody here drives vehicles, almost majority drives large trucks. Again, as much as, let's say, some cities may be full of EVs and stuff, that's not our reality here. But be as it may, every new project that we've done, we put bike lanes. We want to set it up for the future So hopefully 10, 15, 20 years from now, as this city becomes like a more cosmopolitan areas of the central county, the infrastructure will be there, the bike lanes and all of its facilities.
Do you also have a development fee program to collect fees with these developments for future TDM measures?
We have as a part of Oakley, and this has been since its incorporation over 20 years ago, there is a traffic impact fee that is collected by the from the developers, and we use it to build roadways. The lower road that I mentioned, that was funded with that funding. And when we do the projects, again, we do full complete street, including bike lanes.
All right, thank you.
That's the only source of funding we have for roadway construction.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, great. Patty, you're up. Patty, you're still on mute.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, I'm very familiar with Oakley. Of course, I live in Byron, but I have a lot of family members in Oakley. And what is Summer Lake was our ranch that we sold to developers about in the mid 80s. And I'm pretty sure it was about 300 acres. And I know that you've expanded out all the way to the river. Like you said, you can't go any farther east because the river is there. And I want to compliment you on how well you have done with Oakley in the last 20 years, because it was nothing. I have my grandmother's home that is on Bridgehead, and I'm very happy with what you have done with the roads there. My question to you is, I was told that Jersey Island, which we at one time also farmed, there is a big project that is in the makings there. Can you elaborate on that for me, please?
Certainly. Yes. Jersey Island Road, one of the first of all, the Summer Lake project, that the property that you mentioned, I didn't know was belonged to your family. And yeah, the developer, this is even back in the county, that's bought a portion of it and built about 600 homes, what we today we call Summer Lake South. The picture I showed you, the other development is building Summer Lake North, over 800 foot adjacent to it. But even bigger than both those projects is what has been commonly known as the Grand Cypress Preserve Project. This project, this developer, they're actually from Southern California. They came and bought many hundreds of acres of pasture land from farmers to build. Their plan was to build over 3,200 homes. This was going to be this huge master plan community, a city literally in the far east Oakley. And as a part of that project, they were supposed to rebuild East Cypress Road, Jersey Island Road, all of Bethel Island Road, all of them was going to be completely rebuilt from the country road to city standard to service their community. And we've been in discussions and talking with them for a number of years. And unfortunately, that project, it seems, is not materializing. That developer is kind of canceling the project, apparently just because of the cost of the infrastructure, which is going to be in hundreds of millions, because to just improve that area to service like a community that they plan to build. However, since they have kind of disengaged, the city has taken upon ourselves to improve Cypress Road. East Cyprus has to, I mean, that's the only way out of Bethel Island, Far East Oakley. We need it for emergency access. So city is actually working with that developer to acquire the right of way because it goes through the land, and we're going to build the roadway. So not Bethel Island Road, but East Cyprus Road from Bethel Island Road all the way to Knightston Avenue is going to be reconstructed by the city to a modern, you know, four-lane roadway, bike lanes, all of the features. And we are working on that, and we're funding that ourselves because we couldn't afford to do nothing and wait for developers to come. And this developer came, and I think they worked at it for several years, and it somehow didn't pencil out for them. So you will see a lot more construction out in the East Oakley, in the East Cyprus Road area over the next 2 years.
Thank you, Kevin.
Sure.
Great. And Michael, you're up.
Yeah, so I guess, Kevin, first of all, don't feel like you need to apologize for a lesser interest in bike lanes in Oakley compared to other areas. I think we have to recognize Oakley is a very different place than Danville or Lafayette or any of the cities that are more established and closer in. And on that line, the question that intrigues me is what is imposed on the city of Oakley that might make sense in Danville or Walnut Creek or Lafayette that you say really is an imposition? I get it. If you've got a group of people who are getting up at 4 a.m. to drive to a construction site and, you know, doing skilled trades work on a construction site that might be 60 miles away, they're not going to be interested in getting on their bike. They're not going to have a mass transit option. They're going to need to get in their heavy equipment vehicle, drive to the site, do a hard day's work, come home, hopefully get a meal, go to bed. So it's a very different world you live in, and a very important world. It makes us complete. But what do we impose on Oakley at a county level or state level that really, if you had a choice, you'd say, give me a little bit more freedom here because I could do a better job for my people if I wasn't required to do X or Y or Z, recognizing that my world's a little bit different than maybe the ideal world as some people define it.
Interesting perspective. I would say it isn't so much what is imposed on us. We know who we are. I mean, we know we don't try to be something we aren't. I mean, some cities, some organizations, they try to pretend something they are. I think we know our reality, we know who we are. And all of us here, from city manager, city council, they aspire for the future. We don't see Oakley to what it was 20 years ago, to what it is today, but we want it to be what they envision it to be, which is a kind of a modern suburban community. And we have taken great strides, I'd say, over the past few years towards that goal. Council changes, city manager changes, perspective changes, but I think the overall goal has been to move this community in a more progressive fashion. As some of you who have been in our downtown, I've been here about 8 years in Oakley, and some of the folks before me, they said, "Oh, this downtown was nothing like this 15 years ago." So a lot of improvements has been done. All of our major roadways, we could say, well, you know, we have no bike lanes. We don't want bike lanes. Let's just make it all for cars and parkings. But we try to hold the line. We don't see it for what is today. We want to set it up for its future, like I said. So any funding that we get, We use it for our infrastructure. One of the I think is worth mentioning, Oakley we rely heavily on all of the houses that are being built and their property taxes as source of revenue to run our government. Our sales tax is in single digits, and you try to run a modern city of 45,000 plus population with that tiny of a sales tax. We have worked very hard to attract commercial businesses here, and it's difficult as all the cities can contest. Everybody's competing for the same commercial establishment to generate sales tax, and just because of the location of where we are, we're Brentwood, Antioch, they have much larger shopping center, much larger draw. So we have to work twice as hard to attract a McDonald's. Forget the Costco, but to even get a McDonald's here. So that's a challenge, but that's we embrace that. We take a McDonald's as it comes and a car wash as it comes. May not be the desired by many cities, but we work hard again getting the DuPont factory that was along Bridgehead back in the day, and now there's the Amazon. Most of it is Amazon. There's other e-commerce businesses, but that's a 2 million square foot. So we get some property tax from it. It's not a huge sales tax revenue generator. We would love to have a Costco and a Walmart or a Home Depot type of thing, but that's not our reality. We know they're not coming here, and so we do what we have to do.
Great answer. Just is there something that can be done to make that path a little bit easier for you? Because it's not the easiest path, as you acknowledge.
Yes.
Great. Bill?
I've got what may be a silly question, or at least naive, and that has to do with the Delta. I know that it has a lot of commercial use, but is it used at all for commuting?
No. Even though we're kind of butted against Delta, there are in Oakley there are 2 marinas. They're private, and they're nothing for like commercial traffic or the commuter boats that you see more in the San Francisco area. This is primarily for fishing. People have their private boats, and for just recreation and pleasure, nothing for commercial. And it's just too small. It's not really set up to have the type of marina and entrance to be able to bring commuter boating and commercial boat traffic here.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And just for your information, CCTA is studying ferry service to Pittsburgh and Antioch, but not Oakley. But Oakley residents, of course, could take advantage if it ever did come to Pittsburgh or Antioch.
Sure. And Patty, is your hand still up, or is that from before? Might be from before. Okay. Anybody else?
If not, let's see. Jared?
Yeah, go ahead, Patty.
I would like to make a motion that we accept Oakley's growth management compliance checklist.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Michael. Now, before I call a roll call vote, we've had some good questions raised about the accounting numbers, which I believe are not anything negative or bad, but we do have some questions that we just need a finance person who's not here today to answer. And I think Kevin's done his job. So as we move to a vote on this, I would wonder if it is our responsibility to actually table a vote on this until we have that answer from the finance team, which we could get tomorrow, and then just vote to approve it next month without a new presentation, or we could vote to move forward, or we could vote, and some people might vote no based on those finance. I don't know if staff can clarify, but I think we're at this point, and just before we go to a roll call vote, and you know we do have a motion on the floor, I just want to get some clarification about our responsibility here and everything else.
Yeah, so you could, your options tonight are either to recommend approval of the checklist to the planning committee and board, or to not recommend. You can recommend it on the condition that the city, submits or takes a look at the LSM reporting, because we do have a line on our staff report that says changes from committee, and it's basically anything other than in addition to a recommendation or to not recommend. So it can say recommend based on receipt of LSM reports from the city. You're forwarding it with that and then not really following up, but it's really up to you how you want to handle it.
Can I just chime in if this is discussion?
Please, Ken.
I appreciate that, Matt. So, my concern was, I was just asking about how the money is flowing, and rather than hearing that it's all being saved up for something, the answer I got was, our finance department is small, so maybe those numbers aren't right. So maybe I don't feel comfortable approving something where the numbers might not be right. So I guess I would either vote no until the numbers are right, or yes, but let's make sure the numbers are correct. And it's fine if these are the numbers and they're correct and the money's being spent for something. I just want to vote on accurate numbers. And the answer I got was, oh, these numbers probably aren't accurate because we have a small finance department.
Chair Ash, can I say something?
Sure, please.
I just want to make sure everyone has that. It's not about the number. Nobody said the numbers aren't right. As we document expenditures in our operation, we have projects, Measure J's is allocated through multiple projects, and they get documented and reported. Some of the reporting might be delayed. The numbers are right. There is no, irregularities. We go through an extensive audit process every year. So I want to make sure, the committee rest assured the numbers are correct. It's just some of these projects, because they go year to year, you may not see all of the money be spent within the exact year. But again, I will send a note to our finance manager and have her provide Matt any clarifications tomorrow when she comes in.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I want to be very careful. I think nobody's saying anything's wrong or done. I think we just, as a group here, do not have the piece of information, right? So I think at this point, I have a motion. So we either can have Patty amend her motion to say approved if and when that information is submitted to staff, we will move forward with a full recommendation to approve once staff completes it. Or she can withdraw the motion and we could table the vote, or we could also have a second motion right now to table the vote. So first I'll ask Patty, do you want to, and you don't have to, do you want to change your motion at all?
Well, Um, you know what? I'll let someone else do this. I will withdraw my motion.
Okay.
And let's let someone else that is concerned about all of this proceed with the motion.
Sure, fair enough. So I need to take a motion from somebody to either move forward as is, move forward with the
Hi.
staff recommendation, or to table it. Rosa, you want to weigh in?
Yes, I'm member Rosa from El Cerrito, a population half the size of Oakley. I'll motion. I feel comfortable approving the presentation that I just heard. It's a small town. I totally understand. I have no problem with the numbers. So
Okay.
might be the only vote here, but I would vote yes. So I'll motion.
As
I
is,
just wanna-
okay.
And I'll second that motion, Chair.
Okay, Bill on that, so no changes. Anybody else with any other motions?
If we can make a motion on top of a motion, I don't know if that's allowed. I would motion that we go with staff recommendation that gets approved once the confirmation that the reporting form is correct from the city's finance department.
Okay, so yes, you can do that. It would be, Rosa, would you be okay amending your motion to accept Kent's change, that we pass it with the staff recommendation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm comfortable. Yes.
And just
Great.
for clarification, would that be something that staff would coordinate with the city and it wouldn't come back to you? Or?
That's what I understood. Kent?
Yes, yeah, for me,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Bill, since you seconded, will you accept that second?
I will.
Okay, now, Emily, can you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, and Kevin, do you mind taking down your slides?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Member Bankert,
Yes.
Member Bristow,
Yes.
Member Esquivel,
Yes.
Member Linder,
Abstain.
Member Moriarty,
Yes,
Member Wayne,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr,
Yes.
Chair Ash.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Member Linder abstaining and members Chahal, Hammond, Miller, Asuna, Saunders, and Vega absent.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin, for being part of that. That was new experience for us too, but we're being careful and glad it could pass, but with that paperwork coming, so you don't have to come back. And we really appreciate all the work you're doing. And you do have, unlike San Ramon, you do have a representative on the council who is unfortunately absent today. So shame on them for not being here for your own presentation to hear it. But thank you for being here. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Emily or Matt, any questions on that? Because that got a little confusing in there. I think we ran that by the book though.
I think we're good. I think we can sort it out with the recording and Emily's minutes.
Okay, so thank you. And we're going to go back to the third item on the agenda that we started with early. So please be patient with us, everybody. Kevin, again, thank you for being here. You are welcome to stay, or you are welcome to go to dinner or happy hour, whichever you prefer after that.
Thank you.
Do you want to circle back to our roadway here?
Sure, and I'll try and move through this fast. I know it's after 8 already. And this is for information only, so if you do need to drop, I understand. But this is an interesting study we wanted to share with you.
Matt, just a question. If it is interesting and it's for information, are we best served plowing through it now, or are we best served putting it on the agenda for a future meeting. Just to
I will
happy for either response. Just
Yeah, I will leave that up to you because there's nothing pressing here. We presented this to our board last month, but there's no immediate next steps that we need your feedback on today. So I'm happy to do either.
So before we do that, do we meet in August? Aren't we usually off in August?
Right.
And so September, you'll have at least 2 other checklists and everything.
Yes.
So I don't want to stay late, but Michael, I don't know that we're going to get through it for a while then. So anybody else have a strong opinion either way? If not, I'm kind of inclined to go for it.
Can we go straight to questions, or can we go questions first? Or
He might
just real
answer
quick-
your questions in his presentation, Rosa. Come on.
Oh, okay, okay. Looking for traffic signal priority to faster travel times down San Pablo corridor. And I'm okay with delaying to September, but we've got to speed up the travel time down San Pablo. Thank you.
Noted. Chair, should I continue? Or
How long we taking, Matt, to do this?
there's a few slides. I can get through them in probably less than 10 minutes.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do the slides and everybody keep in mind your questions, and maybe we could take some of the questions offline too.
Yeah, that's totally possible. So I'm going to jump into this real quick. So phase 1 looked at existing conditions, what is going on in the corridor for all modes. And basically what we wanted to do in phase 2 was what can we actually do with the information we found in phase 1. We know how the slow the buses are. We know, we know how the traffic moves. We know about the safety issues. So what we really wanted to look at in phase 2 was how could we, what can we do in Contra Costa? The right-of-way of San Pablo Avenue ranges from 72 feet to almost 88 feet in Contra Costa County in various sections. So that there's a lot of different trade-offs with that different amount of space in the right-of-way of what you can do. That means the difference between a dedicated bike path and not, or parking and not, or a bus lane and not. So that's what we really wanted to dig into in phase 2. So conditions today, there's buses every 7 minutes on San Pablo Avenue, and bike lanes only on parts of the corridor, mainly in the city of San Pablo. There's not a lot of good pedestrian crossings, a lot of misaligned and uncontrolled intersections. And the main stat on this page I want you to see is that 1/3 of all auto trips on San Pablo Avenue are people who have diverted off of 80 or who are just passing through. So a full 1/3 of the traffic does not even really need to be there, would be better kept on I-80. And those buses, because of that, are stuck in congestion during 57% of their travel time, not loading passengers, but stuck in congestion. And that's the red on the chart on the right. And there's a local service bus and a rapid bus, and they both get stuck in congestion, but the rapid bus does have better travel times as would be expected, and lots of safety issues, including 3 deaths in the corridor. The 72 series of buses are the most well-ridden in all the AC Transit bus systems or bus routes, 14% of the entire ridership. And as I mentioned earlier, most of this corridor is in a equity priority community, and most of the riders are either non-white or making less than $50,000 per year. So we looked at some ways to improve that local or that existing service. And one of the main things, as Rosa mentioned, was TSP, transit signal priority. So improving that at all the intersections, possibly a dedicated bus lane, improving the stations, and collecting fares before people get on board, so they aren't having to even deal with that once they get on board. We looked at how bus rapid transit could be configured in this corridor, and bus rapid transit basically means using dedicated space for buses. And so on the left, you can see what they've done on Van Ness recently in San Francisco, using the median or the center running bus lanes. And then down in San Leandro and Oakland on International Boulevard on the right is side running bus lanes. So we wanted to see what would work best in Contra Costa. So key findings, center running works better, but not a ton better, but it's more efficient than side running, but it's also it's more infrastructure intensive. You have to rip out the median, build these lanes, and then people have to actually get out to the median to board the bus. So there are some issues there. In terms of getting bike facilities on San Pablo Avenue, it would require removal of parking, and that is an issue with business owners right now. Right now, there's a lot of street parking, but there's also a lot of dense development going up that may depend on that street parking. So there may be even more of a need for it in the future, or a perceived need for it in the future. So providing a protected facility is obviously the best way of doing it. But there was varying levels of support from both the public and elected officials who may not want to give up parking. Pedestrians, there's a lot of safety issues, as I mentioned earlier, but a lot of opportunities to make it easier for them to cross the street at those unprotected crossings, and for better lighting, things like that. And really a lot of that concern was about elderly and mobility impaired folks using the boulevard. So what are our options for moving forward? Well, first, as I mentioned, like 2 hours ago, Alameda County is also doing this. However, they have more funding than we do. They have a new sales tax measure and receive some grant funding. So they are moving forward on safety enhancements throughout the corridor, but also adding a bus lane and bike lane by removing auto lanes in Oakland and Emeryville and like a couple of blocks of Berkeley. And then working on a parallel bike network. So keeping bikes on parallel streets, a continuous parallel network through to the county line here in Contra Costa. So we're taking into account what they've done in our planning. So what WICTAC agreed to move forward with, or what their recommendation to move forward with, was what we're calling Element 1. And that is safety improvements, mostly for bikes and peds throughout the corridor in Contra Costa. And they also requested that CCTA be the lead on the design and implementation of that, just because we have a little more experience with kind of higher level project design and construction. And then we would discuss Element 2 with the cities, and that would be a pilot bus only lane demonstration. So can side running or center running be done on San Pablo, and what would it look like? So that would involve partnering with one of the cities and working on a demo project with them and AC Transit. So here's a little more detail on Element 1. It would involve signalization, new flashing beacons, crosswalks, protection at the median, lighting and high visibility striping, improved bike crossings across San Pablo Avenue, and then some geometry improvements to the street to make it safer for pedestrians and bicyclists and transit riders. And we identified 70 plus improvements at about 45 intersections in Contra Costa to do that. And CCTA and WICTAC will partner to identify funding, do some additional outreach. Our last outreach was done back in 2019. And we've identified costs at about 35 million to do all those, but we could definitely phase those those improvements. And we would be seeking grant funding to pay for most of it. Element 2, as I mentioned, we will be talking to cities, including one city we're talking to tomorrow, to see if we can come up with a pilot project to test BRT on San Pablo Avenue. That is my presentation. I'm sorry I had to rush through it, but we did provide you with a bunch of project information in the packet. So, and once again, I do have Leah Greenblatt here from WICTAC, who has a lot more project knowledge than I do. And we can certainly answer any questions today, or if there's something you think of while looking at the literature we provided, you can certainly shoot me a question offline, but I'll hand it back to the chair.
Hey, Leah, thanks for being here. Matt has to be here all the time, but we really appreciate you waiting through this longer meeting. Rosa, I know you've got something to say or ask, so go ahead.
Just a quick share, a personal note on, I do the Van Ness BRT on the center bus lane. I just wanted to share for my safety. I'm always like, if you look at the design of the Van Ness BRT where there's a bus zone and that's protected, that's got a pedestrian walkway where pedestrian is clearly designated. Pedestrians are standing here and you kind of feel safe. You're not really safe. And then the rest all the way down the street, there's no pedestrian walkway. There's pretty flowers and there's the road. And usually I find myself on the other side of the road. I got to catch that bus. I see it coming down and I'll run over and then run down the street. And I feel like, oh man, if there was a designated pedestrian walkway so that I can feel safer, but I know I'm going to still take that chance. So I just wanted to talk about future safety. I do like the center bus lane. It's much faster, but I think just if you think about safety, pedestrians will walk from all sides of the street to catch that center bus. And I won't pay attention. I'm just going to go catch that bus. I'm going to run around traffic. And when you just, there's the clearly designated pedestrian area, but I'm on the other side of the street. That's just my share. Thank you. And that's it.
And Rosa and Leah can correct me if I'm wrong. I think we heard those similar comments from the WICTAC board when we presented it to them, concerns about safety in a center median.
Yes, and I think also, there's some design measures that can be incorporated into our project to reduce that particular issue. If you put up, some type of barrier, like a low fence or something where, you kind of channel the pedestrians to the intersection, you can discourage that mid-block crossing.
Well, I'll jump the fence. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Okay. I'll just, I can clearly see for my safety that I should walk down the sidewalk, but
maybe we should alert the sheriff's office to Rosa's movements and time of day of when she's hopping fences and jaywalking.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Rosa, so that's good feedback about the median and people crossing. Anything else on your side, Rosa?
No, that's pretty much it. Everything else can be submitted online. So just want to point out that you can, all feedback, we can all submit it online. I hope you guys are open to taking online comments. I've already done that.
Yep. Claire?
Hi, this is Claire from Concord. Matt, I think this might be your second or third time presenting this presentation. I watched the CBAC presentation, and I have to echo Rosa's comments on the center lanes. For one thing, if it's something like 14% of all ridership is on this route, surely, we owe it to people who are commuting to give them the fastest, safest possible transit experience, I would think. Especially if we're talking about equity and, people who really need this. I think a center lane is something to keep looking at. I also want to put a plug out for removing the pressure on curb space and parking. As someone said in the CBAC comments. There's no constitutionally protected right to parking, especially a lot of this is on-street free parking. So converting this to active transit lanes would be a lot better, especially, you know, as I'm seeing in my community, there's a lot of people on, you know, biking on sidewalks or scootering or skateboarding because being in the street is perceived as not being safe. And it often isn't, because there's no space to be in the street unless you're in a car. So anything that improves that experience is to be plotted. So just a plug for Center Spaces. And Rosa, I was thinking, I know exactly what you're doing because I'm catching buses too. You know, if the ridership is robust enough and the buses are coming often enough, hopefully we wouldn't feel as pressured to.
Maybe Matt's trying to tell us something.
Sorry, I'm done. Thanks.
Okay, Claire. All right, does anybody else have any other questions, comments, concerns, suggestions for Matt? No, maybe they're all tired and don't want to go home.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you everyone for the comments.
Yeah, I think this is good, and I'm glad you guys are paying attention to it, so I appreciate it. Okay, I'll give it staff announcements. Matt, Emily?
Just wanted to direct you to the correspondence item. We have a list of the summer event series that we're doing, where CCTA will be out in every community in Contra Costa County, or every incorporated community, all 19 cities and towns, for a summer event series, just to really collect information from the public on how they feel about transportation, looking for good ideas. And we'll have our Presto autonomous shuttle out at most of the events for people to climb in and check out. So we encourage you to stop by our booth if you see any of those events in your neighborhood. So that's it.
Okay, any other staff reports? We got to hit. Any other member comments? Questions, future agenda items? Speak up.
Chair Ash, this is Emily. I apologize. I got kicked out of the meeting. My computer decided to restart itself. I just wanted to mention, I'm not sure if I might have missed in the time between getting kicked off and jumping on again. The consent calendar.
Oh, yeah, right, because we didn't have, we still have quorum.
Matt, can you tell? I don't have that access.
Claire, Keith, Patty, Kent.
I think we're good.
Bill, Jared, Rosa, Claire. 8. Do we need 8?
Yeah, 8.
8. Okay. Consent calendar. Thanks for coming back to that. Emily, on the consent calendar, Citizens Advisory Committee summary of actions from June 28th and Citizen Advisory Committee attendance log. Do I have a motion for approval?
Rosa makes a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Claire, thank you. All right, let's do a roll call vote. Emily.
Member Bankert,
Abstain.
Member Bristow,
Yes.
Member Esquivel,
Yes.
Member Linder,
Yes.
Member Moriarty,
Approve.
Member Wayne,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr,
Yes.
Chair Ash.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously with Member Bankert abstaining and members Chahal, Hammond, Miller, Asuna, Saunders, and Vega absent.
Okay. Emily, anything else? Thank you for catching that.
No.
Awesome. All right. No meeting in August. We will see everybody in September. Thank you so much, everybody. Meeting adjourned at 8:30.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye for now.